Hello Internet, KCK here, live from the shed for an update number, I want to say 4, but for you guys it's technically update 2. I had recorded audio for 2 other update videos, but I never uploaded them because I wasn't actually sure if people actually cared what was going on behind the scenes. I pretty much settled on people aren't here for anything but the comic, sort of thing. So, anyway, it looks like the candle will be coming back next Wednesday to regular updates until the end of Chapter 2, so I figured that was worthy of an update video, though along with that I have a few things I wanted to discuss regarding it and me making the comics in general. The simple answer is that after the second chapter concludes, sometime in February, the candle will probably be going on another hiatus, possibly a really long one this time. Complete honesty here, I've been working on the candle for the last 18 months as if it was a job, and I'm just sort of tired. There are a lot of little things that keep getting in my way of working on it, and I actually haven't really had a break. Even when not updating this summer, I have been thumbnailing, storyboarding, writing, inking, toning, the works. I've been doing it all by myself. I actually, months ago, went fishing around to see if I could pay someone to give me a hand with the inking process on the comic, maybe to make things a little faster, about 25% speed increase on the inking, but the prices people were quoting me were something I really can't afford at the minute. They were actually, a lot of them were quoting professional prices, like somewhere between $75 and like $175 per page. I did almost have an inker in the form of the son of my sister's coworker who just kind of wanted something to do this summer and maybe make some pocket money doing it, but he got really nervous about inking someone else's art, so he didn't really take the offer, which, you know, no hard feelings there. So, I'm on my own again. I've been drudging through page after page. It's not exactly been calm in my household, which makes it hard to draw. My chickens haven't been the most cooperative this season, and my 9-to-5 job has been understaffed, so I keep getting called in on my days off, or even early on my days that I do work, oftentimes to put away the truck order, which throwing heavy boxes actually gave me a bout of tendinitis in my drawing wrist, and I still drew comics through that, honestly. It really doesn't help that, to a certain extent, my parents don't fully respect that despite not getting paid to do this outside of my Patreon, I have been working on this like it is a job. My brother does commissions, and because he makes decent money from it, my parents tend to leave him alone to work on his art. I, on the other hand, end up cleaning up after some of my other siblings, work my 9-to-5 job that's constantly inching me up to 10-hour shifts some days because my coworkers suck. I take care of my pets, I make dinner some nights, you know, just stuff that's like, okay, and yet still, I kind of get the, oh, you're drawing? Cool. Can you stop drawing and do this mundane task that anyone else in this house could have done, you know, for me instead? Because you're not busy, because you're just drawing, right? And when I try to go somewhere else to work on this comic, or any comic in general, you know, because I'm working these like it's my job, I try going to the library, for example, and they take it as it's like a jab at them, usually resulting in like a fight, and then when we fight, then I get upset and I don't draw. Because I'm like a freaking panda bear, where if it's just like raining wrong, I can't draw. If I wake up and the weather's too cold, and my joints, I have some issue with my joint, like an old woman, actually. Really doesn't help that there's also a different comic that I want to do as well, and because it's not a fan comic like The Candle, I would actually have more options to make some money off of it, like turning on tips on Tapas, or ad revenue, or I could print it in book format and sell it or something if I wanted to. I could actually publish it, unlike The Candle, because it's a fan comic. Speaking of my Patreon, there's like 10 pages for The Candle that is actually already accessible through Patreon. It's only costs $1 to subscribe, but you can donate whatever you want and be ahead of the game. You can see the already 10 up pages, the storyboards for future pages, a bunch of videos of me speed drawing through the penciling process, you know, stuff like that. Literally every bit of money that I make through the Patreon, or art commissions, or someone buying me a coffee, I put all of that aside to hopefully actually reinvest that back into comics. Maybe someday I actually could save up enough where I could actually pay an assistant inker just through the art alone, and that would be cool. And in conjunction, finish comics quicker, which would make them update quicker, and or there would be less long breaks between chapters because I work at like a job and then run out of pages, and then I'm working my butt off to try and not have to work my butt off in the future, kind of thing. On top of that, I would actually really like to thank PsychMac for being an awesome patron on Patreon. You are awesome. I actually want to do more shout outs to, my patrons on Patreon and actually credit them, because honestly, I don't make much off of my Patreon, and I just invest it all back into basically the piggy bank for going back into the art pool of money. But at the same time, it has helped my self-esteem, and it's helped me basically say, oh yes, this person likes my work enough to pay me a little bit of money every month, and so I do want to keep up the hard work because of that. And now, back to the update. As I mentioned before, there is another comic that I want to work on. It's actually been in the works for a few years now, but it's getting to the point where after some tweaking, I can actually start working on it now. And as the first chapter is already 43 pages, and it's been storyboarded. But with the candle taking up so much of my time, I haven't actually gotten to work on it. For those interested at all, I love fairy tales. I always have. It started with Disney, but I also grew up with copies from the bargain bin knockoffs, like the Good Times Entertainment stuff, Saban's My Favorite Fairy Tales collection, Encyclopedia Britannica's fairy tales from around the world, and the like. So I was always fascinated by the fact that there were so many adaptations and different ways to tell the same story, and that's kind of what I wanted to do for years. I wanted to tell my own version of these stories that I love. So 2 or 3 years ago, I started working on an anthology of comics that would let me try my hand at telling some of my favorite fairy tales. I'd like to work on that some more, as I haven't really gotten to touch it in months outside of some quick sketches to warm up working on the candle, or maybe draw some other things, or open commissions, which is something I haven't been able to do when working full-time on a comic, plus paying job and other responsibilities. And yep, that's pretty much all I wanted to say in this update. Well, that's a lie. I could talk for hours about unimportant things, but I wanted to keep this quick. Thanks for sticking with me, and I hope that you're excited for the end of Chapter 2 of The Candle. I know it's been a long exposition dump, but I really didn't have anywhere else to put this information in the story, because this and the beginning of Chapter 3 are one of the last times that Peach and Mario actually interact until closer to the end of the story. And so, this is basically where the plot starts to begin. And of course, I'm going to take a break for that. So, that's going to be a fun time. I'm also sorry that I haven't been responding to a lot of comments and stuff either. Literally, I have gone almost invisible to the internet, because that is literally what I do. I come home from my job and I start working on the comics. And then I go to sleep and do other things, and then I go to my job, and then I come home and sometimes I make dinner and stuff, and then I work on the comic. That is literally, I emphasize, I've been working on this like it is a job. And it feels like I've been working 2 jobs, and so I'm actually very much looking forward to taking a break. I do still have some screen toning I have to do for the second half of Chapter 2, but not so much that updates can't start beginning. And that's all I want to say. You might be able to hear my chickens. But thank you all for being so cool. So, Casey K, signing out. So to make this fully clear, I'm not quitting working on the candle in general. I'm just taking kind of an extensive break. I'll probably still be working on it, just not fast enough to keep up with a weekly update schedule as I work on my fairy tale anthology, which is called Feyredu. Or maybe it's called Feyredux. I haven't quite figured out how that's pronounced yet. I really should look that up, because it's either going to be Feyredu, like fairy tale redo, or it's going to be pronounced like fairy ducks. Like fairy ducks! Quack! Yeah! Something I forgot to mention when recording this audio is that on the topic of doing an original story so that I had more options to publish it or make money off of it or sell it, I decided to play around with what it would be like to print the comic pages into a book. So I actually used the candle as an example, and I actually have a small paperback copy of the candle, though the last handful of pages are not inked or screen toned. They're their pencil versions, so they're really sketchy. And I thought, okay, I'm not really allowed to sell the candle or anything, because these are copyrighted characters and can you say cease and desist. But I did think that it would be kind of cool to make a small print of maybe 10 copies and do a giveaway through my Patreon as maybe a gift around maybe the Christmas season. I wasn't sure if anyone was sort of interested in that. I wasn't sure. I thought it would be cool. I thought maybe I could take what money I had I'd already earned through Patreon, kind of use that money to do a very small printing and then do a small giveaway or raffle channel of paperback versions of the Candle, and I wasn't sure if anyone was interested. So this is something I would be interested in hearing feedback on. Like, does anyone think would anyone be into that, actually? You know. So now, for realsies this time, I'm signing off. Later.